Hey guys, quick update. I just wanted to let you know that I had to change this diagram a little bit because the brother who runs the Tabernacle, the Bridegroom channel, informed me that the date that I was using for the Enochian end of year of April 9th is actually wrong. He told me that basically it should be April 20th. So I updated that here in the diagram over here on the right side. And that channel is where I got this calendar from in the first place. So I don't really know that much about calendars, so I just trust whatever he says because I mean he's the one who brought this calendar to my attention, and we all really owe him a debt of gratitude because we would not all the research we're doing and this stuff is downstream from his research, and there's no way we would have ever been able to construct this diagram without his research over the years on calendars, and which is the reason he knows how the Enochian calendar should work. So yeah, he said that what I had previously, I had April 9th as the Enochian end of year. That was wrong. It's actually supposed to be uh, April 20th. So it's really not a huge change. I mean, the change to my stuff is just seamless. I just, instead of having that leaf be the Enochian year end, that everything aligns to, now it's just the second great American eclipse because that's the same day anyway, same Enochian day of the year anyway. And then the whole diagram now is bookended by the true Enochian year end on 420. That adds a new leaf to this diagram, and that means there's a new mirror date. So that's over here on October 4th. So the diagram used to start with on 10/14, October 14th, with this wedding ring eclipse, and now it begins on October 4th with this day, which is the 167th Enochian day of the year. And remember, we know that 167 signals Esther, the book of Esther, because that book has 167 verses. And that 167th Enochian day of the year, remember, it's a sunset to sunset thing, so it's mostly October 4th, but it actually, technically, the day began the day prior at sunset, so sunset October 3rd. And October 3rd in 2023 was the 276th Gregorian day of the year, which is just really astounding because now, I mean, there's just a mountain of stuff in this diagram pointing back to the 276 sign. The Shavat 26 date that we're looking at is the 329th day of the year. That points back to the 276 sign. A ton of other things. And so really it's the 276 sign that's being telegraphed in this diagram. Trees also, especially Feast of Trees, almond trees. See what else. So I sort of, at this point, we had like a 90 or 85 or 90% constructed diagram in terms of plotting the remainder of the leaves, and there were only a few other ones. So let's see here. I think it was that this one I plotted recently, which and then it mirrors to this one because there was this span here of the 22 days, and they needed to be filled in what goes right there in the middle, so that it would be matching the other 22-day spans where it's bisected in the middle, creating the two spans of 11 days. And so we did that, and this one right here, 2/6, that was something that I actually mentioned in my last video that had this curious properties of being like the twin brother date to Shavat 26, because February 6th is the 292nd Enochian day of the year, with 329 days remaining in the Gregorian year, and Shavat 26 is the 329th Enochian day of the year, with 292 days remaining in the Gregorian year. And then it's also 1019, which is a 119 date. Okay, and that mirrors to another leaf that I inserted here, which is December 16th. And that's the 241st day of the Enochian year, which telegraphs Zerubbabel, because remember, Zerubbabel equals 241 in Hebrew Standard Gematria. And that's an amazing mirror right there, because as Brother G44 informed me, that completes a circle. And so, how we're looking at how a lot of this stuff is based on circles. And the 119 of the date there, the date signature, That's Tevet 19. And the 241st day, so the 119 plus 241 is 360. So, and that was also reflected in the, if I see if I can pull it up real fast, the 276 sign. Because if you recall, this was a 276 sign dimensions, and the sun was at 276 degrees, and the distance between the sun and Jupiter was 119 degrees on this side of the ecliptic, and then going around the other side of the ecliptic, it was 241 degrees. So that mirrored, those two mirrored dates is also reflecting that aspect of the 276 sign dimensions, which is amazing. I'm trying to think if I added anything else. I think that was it. Yeah, pretty sure that was it. So the coolest thing that emerged recently is that I realized that this pattern, this interval pattern at the top here, is pretty conspicuous. That, you know, I mean, why is it 11 days, 15 days, 11 days, 11 days, 15 days? At one point, we thought that reflects the date of Tu B'Shvat, which of course is 11:15, and I think it does in a certain sense, but I don't think that's what God's trying to get across here. And I realized that if you add the 11 to the 15, it's 26. And so what you have here is the 11 and the 15 is the 26, and then the 11, and then the 11 and the 15, which is the 26, and then the 11, and the 11, the 15, and 26, and so on, right? So it's like you're getting, maybe I should zoom in a little bit here. I'll just zoom into one side of this, one half of this symmetrical diagram. But you have a 26, 11, 26, 11, 26, and then again on the right side, 26, 11, 26, 11, 26. So it seems to be, that interval pattern seems to be telegraphing the date of 1126, aka Shvat 26, which is the date that we're looking at, the 329th Enochian day of the year, which is March 14th, Pi Day. So that is all very cool. One more thing I realized is that the Enochian year begins on, technically it begins on April 20th because it's a sunset to sunset thing, so it began on April 20th at sunset. So that's 420. I think I have this actually here. Yeah, that's 420. And then this Enochian year is actually a 364 day year length. And if you add 420 and 364, you get 784, which is pretty remarkable because that's the current year. The official Jewish year is 5784. And then, of course, if you watch my videos a lot, you know that that's also the gematria value of Methuselah. And, you know, Methuselah is the Noah's grandfather, whose death was sort of the event that triggers the flood. That triggered the flood of Noah. A couple of other things here. So, I don't know if anybody's mentioned this. I think I'm the first one to mention this, but if you look at the two great American eclipses, the first one in 2017, and then the next one coming up here in April, the ecliptic longitude of the sun on the 2017 eclipse was 148 degrees, and the ecliptic longitude of the sun on this second great American eclipse coming up is going to be 19 degrees. And if you add 148 to 19, you get 167, which is the number of verses in Esther. So that setup in the sky is definitely telegraphing Esther and the rapture of the bride. Another thing I noticed was that if you look at also again at the first and second great American eclipses, that was on August 21, which is 821, and then April 8th, the one coming up, which you can designate as 408. And if you do 821 minus 408, you get 413, which is 314 reversed, which is the date that we're looking at, March 14th. This is just a little bit of an addendum factoid here to my last video, because I was mentioning how the number 1126 is also built into the book of Acts, and also Acts 27 and 28. I found this one, which I thought was cool. So I thought I'd add that to that one. So if you were intrigued by those facts in the last video, then this should be intriguing. It should add to that. So if you take 1344, which is the 44, 31. Now remember, Acts 27, 28 have 44 and 31 verses respectively. Okay, so that's where the 44, 31 comes in. So 1344 is just that number reversed. Now if you take 1344 minus 1126 for the Shabbat 26, you get the number 218. And the 218th composite number, remember we talked about composite numbers in the last video, the 218th composite number is 278. Which, if you've seen a lot of my videos in the last month or so, you know that that number represents, numerically it represents Acts 27, 8, 27 to 28. Okay, this is very cool. We talked in the last video about how if you take the date of 11 of Shabbat 26, which is 1126. And then the Gregorian date of March 14th, which is 314, you'll find that they are actually companion numbers or paired numbers in the context of 4 circles, right? Because 4 times 360 degrees is 1440 degrees. Now, it doesn't, I mean, this also works with other types of, or other numbers of circles. You can do any number of circles. You can also do, in this case, I'm doing 3.5 circles. So that's 3.5 times 360 degrees, which equals 1260. And the date of Shabbat 26 plus the official Jewish date signature of 134 happen to be pair numbers or companion numbers in the context of 3.5 circles. So I thought that was very cool how neat all of this is. All these numbers are connected through these circles, the Enochian to the Gregorian in the context of 4 circles, and then the Enochian to the official Jewish calendar in the context of 3.5 circles. And 3.5, that makes you think of the math of the tribulation time period, of 3.5 years, and then the Great Tribulation following, which is another 3.5 years, and that's half of the 7 years, and that's all about the Jews. So it's no surprise that the official Jewish date here is paired to the 1126 in the context of 3.5 circles. Okay, so this is very, very cool. The Enochian day of Shabbat 26, it's actually, since I always say it's sunset to sunset, so it's going to be March 13th to March 14th. So that's 313 and 314. Now, if you add 313 and 314, you get 627. Which is 726 reversed. And that was actually one of the changes that I had to make to my calendar on as a result of the information that the guy who runs the Tabernacle, the Bride Group channel, told me, how I had to change the calendar. I realized that because the wedding ring eclipse occurred in Jerusalem time after sunset, it was actually because previously I had it at the Enochian date of 626. So I had to move it actually over to 627, which is actually a happy consequence because that's the reverse of 726, the harpazo number. And for any math buffs out there who know about ln, the ln function, it's on most calculators. It's natural log. The natural log of 1126 happens to be 7.026. Once again, the harpazo number 726. And now looking at this diagram, if I notice something about the numbers that we're using here, if you take the intervals that I'm using, so I have 11 days, 15 days, 37 days, 74 days, and 104 days. Now, if you add those all up, 11 plus 15 plus 37 plus 74 plus 104, you get 241, which is the Hebrew gematria value of Zerubbabel, which is totally amazing. Or if you leave out the 104 days, you get 137, which is the number, as I've gone into in the last couple weeks, mostly over in community posts. That is the number associated with trees, or the Feast of Trees. Or if you use these new intervals I added uh, of the 26, that would replace the 15, right? Because then 15 would just be, it would just be 26 and 11 instead of 15 and 11. If you use those, if you add those numbers now, you get 11 plus 26 plus 37 plus 74 plus 104. You get 252, which is telegraphing Proverbs 25:2, which I can pull up real fast. Let's see. Proverbs 25:2. The honor of God is to hide a thing, and the honor of kings is to search out a matter. And the 276 sign also occurred on the 252nd Enochian day of the year. I should probably put that in there somehow. So let's see, what's next? And I also wanted to point out that the diagram resembles not so much a menorah anymore. Well, it still does in a way, very, very wide menorah, but it resembles a tree for the most part, which is then not surprising that there have been all these tree associations and connections that we found all over the place. The numerical, the set of numbers that telegraph trees. The 337, 1337, 137, 214. All those numbers, that complex of numbers that telegraphs trees, pops up. All those numbers pop up all over the place. And then of course trees is also part of this diagram explicitly. It's mirrored. A Feast of Trees is mirrored to a tree's date. It's and we're also speculating that the rapture occurs shortly after trees, and that the Feast of Trees is the final feast day prior to the rapture. So it's no surprise that this whole thing ends up looking like a tree with a bunch of leaves. And as it stands now, it's got 8 leaves on either side and one in the middle, which is 17 leaves. And that also is amazing because the 17th triangular number is 153. Like, the 153 catch of large fish in John 21:11. So 17 always biblically represents the catch of souls, the sons of God, right? The Benai Ha Elohim. So I think God is at work in me and my brothers with whom I'm working on this diagram, in producing this diagram, to look exactly how he wanted it to look in the first place. We're just walking by faith, and it's ending up becoming this inspired activity with the artifacts that come out of it being inspired as well. And Brother G44 pointed out something amazing to me. In Jeremiah 1:11, it says, "Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Jeremiah, what seest thou? And I said, I see a rod of an almond tree." And he said, well, it looks like this diagram looks like an almond tree centered on 111, Kislev, or January 11th, which is Kislev 24. And it's Jeremiah 1:11 talking about an almond tree. And it actually does kind of look like it's centered on 111, which is Kislev 24. And that verse was Jeremiah 1:11, and Jeremiah is the 24th book. And it has the leaves here, and it's got the branches, and it's got this kind of broad look, like if you've ever seen an almond tree, it kind of has this broad look to it. So that's really amazing. So yeah, I think that's more or less what I wanted to show. I guess I'll quickly comment on the Acts 27:28 voyage timeline. In retrospect, I think that timeline, it was actually designed to point to Feast of Trees, because it ends here at this line, which lines up with the Feast of Trees date of March 3rd, and that's based on a projected 7-day walk on the Appian Way, which I think is reasonable because that averages out to about 20 miles a day or so, which I think is probably what they would be walking per day. And of course, you can't really know for sure because it doesn't tell you, but I think that's pretty reasonable. That's when they would have met the brethren there south of Rome. And I think that that's perfect because so much seems to point to Feast of Trees in the diagram and in the numbers and everything, and even this Acts 27:28 voyage timeline kind of ends at the Feast of Trees, and the diagram itself looks like a tree, so everything seems to be pointing to Feast of Trees, and also so much stuff has a connection with the 276 sign, which is defined in Acts 27:28. So everything is connected. Everything is connected and self-referential and self-reinforcing. So yeah, just a quick update for today. Thank you for watching, and God bless.